There are four returning quarterbacks in the Big Ten that have started games from last season. Yet one is receiving a little bit of slander. We've got a report straight out of Gopher Camp.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
The start to last season for Minnesota quarterback Athan Kaliakmanis was a little bit slow, but once they got to the Wisconsin game, he really started to hit his form. And I'm pleased to be joined now by Kane Rob from Locked On Golden Gophers to talk about all things Athan Kaliakmanis. Kane, how you doing today?
Not too bad. I'm ready to talk some college football. We are almost there. Just over 20 days. I'm counting down the days and the moments, but we're getting there.
And the first game, of course, is Minnesota and Nebraska. Now let's talk about Athan Kaliakmanis here for just a minute. What I'm referencing, of course, is this 24/7 article, 24/7 sports article, where Athan Kaliakmanis was ranked 67th out of 69 Power 5 quarterbacks. Let me list off some quarterbacks, at least in the Big Ten, that were ranked higher than Athan Kaliakmanis. Gavin Wimsatt at Rutgers. Noah Kim, that has played none, maybe very little, and we don't really know what we're going to see, but we've seen Athan Kaliakmanis lead a game-winning drive against the Wisconsin Badgers. Why do you think there is that national slander, so to speak, against Athan Kaliakmanis?
I don't even know if I'd say it's the national slander. It might be more of this report, but typically I've been finding him kind of in that 9 to 12 range in the Big Ten. This one had him all the way at 14th, so it was a little brutal. But then you look at the author of the article, who has relations to a former Gopher coach who doesn't really like some of the fan base, lots of blockings on Twitter, so maybe there's a little disdain there. But overall, it seemed like they were really kind of focused on the box score and like what that looks like. And that's not taking into the context what happened. Like the coach is not really allowing him to throw the ball, or like all four of his interceptions that you see in that box score came against top 15 defenses in Illinois, Iowa, and Penn State. So, there's a lot of context that's missing, and that's probably why this ranking was so darn low.
Yeah, and when you take a look at how AKA Athan Kaliakmanis really came in. Remember, his first game was at a whiteout at Penn State. That's not how you want to really start any career, but I think what I've said on this channel, and maybe others have said, is once he really got going, and once the coaches maybe started a little bit more faith and trust in him, and maybe not lean so much on the greatest Golden Gopher running back in history, you can see what type of arm talent that Athan Kaliakmanis has seen. Now, you've been at fall camp. You've been at these early practices in Minneapolis. What have you seen out of Athan Kaliakmanis that might tell you that he's going to be a better quarterback here in 2023?
Well, one thing you see is just the ability to throw with multiple arm angles. You see the zip coming off of his passes. Now, I still think that there could be some ups and downs, some lumps, maybe. I feel like he's been testing kind of what he can get away with in some of these camps. So in fall camp. So I think there's still going to be maybe a turnover worthy plays here or there. But like you had mentioned, he had really started to come into his own as the season was going last year. In the 6 games of significant playing time last year, so basically starting from Penn State and moving on, he went 862 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 165 yards on the ground. Now, you want to see his passing percentage move up from that 55, but overall, he was really coming into his own, especially like you said, those kind of last 2 games. Prior to the injury in the bowl game, he was 86 completion percentage between Wisconsin and Syracuse before he went down with that injury.
Yeah, and so let's talk more about these skill positions, because it is my belief that Athan Kaliakmanis is going to be better this year because, man, Minnesota's got weapons. They got weapons on the outside. Chris Ottman-Bell comes back. Maybe the best tight end of the Big Ten, Brevin Spanford. And then you got to talk about transfers. You got to talk about Corey Crooms, one of many transfers from Western Michigan. You got to talk about Elijah Spencer. That spring game where it was slant after slant after slant, that connection really seems to be good. Do you believe, like I do, that the weapons around Athan will make him a better quarterback here in 2023?
Absolutely. I mean, it can't hurt, right, to have that many lethal weapons out there. And you didn't even mention Daniel Jackson, Lemecki Brockington, who both could see a healthy amount of snaps and a healthy amount of targets in this upcoming season. So I definitely don't think it hurts. I've been seeing a lot of that 8 to 88 connection happening in these fall camp practices we've been able to attend. They just worked on the third down. Third down was kind of the area of focus in this last practice we were able to attend, and definitely seeing some targets to 88 coming from slants, coming from seam routes. So it's going to be fun to see Brevin Spanford get more involved. And I said on Twitter, man, they better have a minimum of 5 targets his way, because I just don't know how teams can stop him, especially when the field is shorter in the red zone.
Exactly. So let's talk about Brevin Spanford for a minute. When we talk about tight ends, we usually talk about safety valves. Do you think he's going to be more of that type, or do you think he's going to be more of a playmaker in this offense? How do you think that's going to go in terms of the development of Athan Kaliakmanis? Is he going to be one of the top targets that number 8 is going to be looking to?
I think it's a little bit of both. You could see some safety valve, but you could also see some playmaker. I think there's going to be schemed plays for Brevin to get the ball and have the opportunity to break big ones. But I think he is a bailout option on maybe third and shorts or things where you need to pick up that first down. And who is really going to go one-on-one with a 6'7", 265, 270-pound tight end? I mean, and it's not like he's oversized or like overweight. This man is pure muscle and ready to go up there and jump with the best of them in the NBA. So, I mean, like, it's going to be a fun time. But like I said, I think you mentioned Elijah Spencer. He's someone that really intrigues me heading into this season because of the separation he creates off of the line of scrimmage. We saw it in the spring game with the slants, and we've been seeing it again in these fall practices as well. I think he could play a really nice role.
So, like I said, you've been there, you've seen all these guys, and I've mentioned, a lot of other people have mentioned just the sheer amount of guys that Athan will have at his disposal. When it comes down to it, game 1 against Nebraska, who do you think are the starting 2? Who do you think are the starting 3? Who are separating themselves? It looks like Crab, it looks like Daniel Jackson, as you mentioned. Who are some of those other guys that are going to separate from the pack in terms of threats on the outside?
Yeah, I think it's still a little hard to say because Chris Bell is getting a slow ramp up period. So he's out there, he's working with the guys, he's going through walkthroughs, but they have got him on an every other day sort of basis when it comes to fully ramped up practices versus maybe a lighter practice. And both of the ones we've been able to attend so far, he hasn't been in that fully ramped up stage. So he has been lined up out there with Daniel Jackson and Corey Crooms with some of the ones first snaps. But you see a lot of rotation between those 3 receivers and then Elijah Spencer and Lemecki Brockington. I've seen all 5 of those players run with the ones on multiple occasions in the live team periods. Lemecki Brockington just had a 50-yard touchdown just yesterday that he absolutely had huge separation between himself and Justin Wally, the CB1 for the Minnesota Gophers. So I think there's a lot of lethality or versatility across the entire wide receiver room, which should bring intrigue.
Boy, that's pretty good company when you're beating Justin Wally over the top. That's pretty good things. And I remember, of course, Lemecki Brockington, that touchdown catch to beat Wisconsin late. I think he had a pretty good spring game, if I remember correctly, as well. Mm-hmm. So let's transition to the run game a little bit, because a lot of times it's that run game that can kind of take a little bit of heat, a little bit of pressure off of a young quarterback like Athan Kaliakmanis. You go back to last season, when Athan really came into the lineup, they went with Mo. They just handed to him and handed to him and handed to him. Now, it looks like, based on what we said with the weapons on the outside, they're going to throw it a little bit more. But there is still a very good stable of running backs. How do you view the Athan balanced with the run game? Do you see this run game, how do you see it complementing Athan's development in this offense?
I think it's going to be a huge aspect still. I know we talked about the pass catchers, we talked about Athan, but I still think the Gophers will be heavier on the run than the pass. Now, the last 2 years, we've seen almost 70% run to pass when it comes to the past 2 seasons. This year, I think we're going to see more of that 2019-ish balance where it's more 60% run, 40% pass. And even if you look at PJ's time with Western Michigan, a lot of it in that 55 to 58, I think that's where he prefers to be, maybe in that 58 to 60. But there's some versatility across the running backs when it comes to the type of backs they are. They've really been working 4 running backs all in with the ones. True freshman Darius Taylor has been in there. redshirt freshman Zach Evans. But one name that I think will insert himself into the conversation is Sean Tyler from Western Michigan. This guy is fast. He has got some nasty speed to him, and it pops off from the minute you're watching him in these. And they've even had some packages where they're motioning him out wide in a spread formation. So I think it could get some creativity, and that should be helpful to a young quarterback like Athan.
You know, when you go back to that successful year of 2019, a lot of people look at Tyler Johnson, a lot of people look at Rashad Bateman, but the running game was pretty involved as well. As long as we're kind of talking about 2019, when all is said and done, in 2023, do you believe that this is going to be the best Minnesota offense since 2019?
I think it's definitely a possibility. The talent-wise, I think yes. The talent in the rooms when it comes to running back, when it comes to wide receiver, tight end might be even better because Brevin wasn't really playing in that 2019 season very much. So talent-wise, I think they have the capability. It's just how much does it click? Because Athan has all the upside in the world, maybe the most upside that PJ Fleck has coached at the quarterback position, but maybe it takes some time to develop and get into that groove. We're going to find out as the season gets going.
Want to thank Kane Rob for joining us. It's going to be a fun year to watch. A lot of weapons. Let's see how Athan Kaliakmanis develops. Kane, thanks for joining me.
No problem.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.